Hey guys, before we get into today's WWE news, I wanted to thank you for all of your incredible support as we hit 10,000 subscribers over the weekend. The WN365 community is ever growing and I'm really excited about what's ahead in 2023. For example, I can today announce the launch of the WN365 channel memberships. Members of the WrestleNews 365 roster will get badges, custom emojis, priority chat, access to members' exclusive videos, live streams, and much more. Now, if you wish to join the WN365 roster, you can do so by clicking join or click the link in the video description or the pinned comment in the chat to become a member of the roster. Now, don't worry, the daily news videos, post-show reactions, and more, they're not going anywhere. But for those of you who do want more WN365 content, which people have been asking for recently, examples of members-only content will be historic match watch-alongs, Q&As, call-in shows, interviews, debates with guests, and much more. Once again, I'm really just floored, flabbergasted, and really appreciate all of your support here on the channel. As a lifelong wrestling fan, it truly is a dream to have such an amazing community to discuss the thing that I love with every single day. You are the best. Now, enough of me talking, let's get into the news. Cody Rhodes faces off with Paul Heyman last night on Monday Night Raw and makes things personal on the road to WrestleMania. We've got details as to why WWE decided to do this segment, particularly due to the rising popularity of Sami Zayn in his feud with Roman Reigns. Speaking of Reigns and WrestleMania, an update on cancelled plans for a new WWE Championship, possibly to do with Rhodes versus Reigns on the showcase of the Immortals. Lita makes her return to WWE, setting up possibly a massive match at Elimination Chamber. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus the Judgment Day is now official for the Chamber pay-per-view. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley looks to be taking place at Elimination Chamber as the challenge was laid out last night on Monday Night Raw. JBL and Baron Corbin, they have split. Their partnership is now over. We've got updates on the United States Championship Elimination Chamber match as well as the Women's Chamber match for the upcoming Premium Live event as well as the ratings for this week's edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Hey guys, welcome back to WrestleNews 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment, especially coming out of last night's edition of Monday Night Raw. And we've got to talk about Cody Rhodes, Paul Heyman, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, that entire story and where WWE's going with it, why they did the segment they did last night, how good the segment was. There's so much to get into. Let's start off talking about Cody Rhodes addressing Sami Zayn and Sami Zayn chants head-on Raw last night during a promo segment. Now, the segment would go on to host an emotional exchange between Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman, which we'll get in just a second. But firstly, Rhodes addressed the former honorary size elephant in the room, noting that while his path to WrestleMania 39 was clear, the road for his opponent was a little more murky as now Roman Reigns would be facing Sami Zayn at the Elimination Chamber event. Acknowledging that Sami Zayn would be hometown Montreal favorite at the Chamber, Rhodes made it clear he was fine with challenging Sami Zayn at WrestleMania if need be. Either way, of course, Cody Rhodes is going to main event at WrestleMania, and his goal is clear, to leave as the new champion. Cody Rhodes, however, was interrupted by Paul Heyman, and the duo would go on to have an incredibly emotional segment, which we'll get into right now. Again, it was probably the highlight of Raw, and that says quite a lot considering we got this big return at the end of the show. But Cody Rhodes, as I mentioned, returned to Raw once again and not only addressed the potential of facing Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, but also faced off against Paul Heyman on the microphone. Now, telling Cody Rhodes that the Tribal Chief and he want to take time to congratulate Cody on his 2023 Men's Royal Rumble victory and shook his hand, noting that he knew that his dad and brother had a nickname for him. He would plan to address him as Mr. Heyman. He went on to say that he would, quote, pull back the curtain and share a personal story, telling a story about how in 2001 the Rhodes family had fallen on literal hard times with just $100 to their names. Dusty Rhodes was doing local car commercials just to keep his vehicle. But then he got a phone call from Paul Heyman, and ECW not only provided Dusty an income, but also his confidence back, and for that, Cody was eternally grateful. Being seen mouthing, quote, "Oh, you son of a bitch," Heyman wiped away what appeared to be a tear as the crowd began chanting, "Thank you, Paul." The reverence, though, was short-lived, as Heyman went on to remind Cody that Dusty prepared some of WWE's greatest current and former champions for greatness at the Performance Center, but not Cody himself. Punctuating the promo, Heyman told Cody that in his last conversation with his since deceased father, Dusty said that Cody was his favorite son. However, quote, Roman Reigns was the son he never had. Cody went on to frighteningly thank Paul Heyman for making the journey to WrestleMania and the Undisputed Championship very personal, as he plans on personally taking them from Reigns. Now, this segment, as I mentioned, if you haven't seen it, if you're going to watch one thing from Raw, watch this segment, because if you were a bit on the fence about watching Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania and you were saying to yourself, man, where's the story here? The story feels like it's Zayn versus Reigns. That's the story they've been telling. That's the story they've been building. Shouldn't that be taking place at WrestleMania? Well, this was very calculated from WWE, and it was very smart by WWE because it hooked the fans' interest, and now fans are looking at Reigns versus Rhodes and saying there's a story there to be told. And it sounds like Sami Zayn is indeed the reason WWE went all in on the Cody Rhodes Paul Heyman segment on last night's edition of Raw. The segment has been hailed by some as an all-timer as they discuss Rhodes' WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns, with his father Dusty Rhodes a big topic of the conversation. Heyman notably told Cody that in his last conversation with Dusty, Dusty had said that Cody was always his favorite son, but Reigns was the son he always wanted. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE specifically knew the segment had to be super spicy because of the popularity of Sami Zayn, who many believe should be the one challenging Reigns at Mania. Meltzer said, quote, this was done because they were well aware of how hot the Sami Zayn thing is, and it was imperative not to have this WrestleMania main event angle feel secondary. So they knew going in they had to do something, and they did. Instead of at WrestleMania, Zayn will be challenging Reigns at Elimination Chamber on February 18 in Zayn's hometown of Montreal. Rhodes did bring up on Raw that he may end up challenging Zayn at WrestleMania instead of Reigns, just to suspend some disbelief. Meltzer also touched on that specific issue, adding, quote, it's very important to the entire company that the Cody match is not the secondary match, but it's also important that people don't look at it as a competition between the two of them. And then the people get behind Sami Zayn, and then that screws up Cody as a babyface. Of course, the expectation is still that Reigns will retain at Elimination Chamber, and Zayn will team with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania against the Usos. And again, this is really curious because the conversation has been, hasn't it, that Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, is that the match people want? Is that the right match to do? Is the story Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns? This was WWE doing something that they hadn't done previously when these kind of issues had come up. 2015, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. 2014, it was Batista versus Randy Orton, but the people wanted to see Daniel Bryan. Or even in 2021 with Edge and Roman Reigns as well. They could have, if they were smart with the booking and with the writing, ensured that the people wanted to see that singles match, but they didn't. They left it ambiguous, and they allowed the fans opportunities to get behind the person they wanted to see in the main event, and then eventually they had no choice. This was WWE, in my opinion, being smart and saying, actually, there is a story here, there is something to be told, this is personal, and there's something more here I want to see. And that was very smart, I think, by WWE, and it certainly has whet the appetite for more promos to come between Heyman, Rhodes, and Reigns as we get closer and closer to the showcase of the Immortals. But what's interesting with this Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns situation is that had The Rock been available for WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes would have been in a completely different match and possibly for a completely different title. Now, major scrap plans appear to have been revealed for a new WWE Championship that was to be created for WrestleMania 39. As we all know by now, WWE was hoping The Rock would be available for a main event match against Roman Reigns. That's not on the cards, of course, due to The Rock not having time to prepare, so instead, Reigns is facing the American Nightmare. On today's Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer spoke about how if Reigns versus The Rock went ahead, WWE had planned to create a new championship for the main event of WrestleMania Night 1, which would have likely been won by Rhodes. He said, quote, if it was Roman and The Rock, they were going to create a championship on Saturday nights that Cody probably would have ended up winning. It was Cody, Drew, or Rollins that was going to come out of that one because they wanted to go back to 2 titles. Of course, WrestlingNews.co had originally reported that, as of a few weeks ago, WWE had been planning the 2 nights' big title matches as, quote, Night 1, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes, Night 2, Roman Reigns versus The Rock or Cody Rhodes. WWE seemingly made a point of saying during Raw last night that both Roman Reigns' titles, WWE and Universal, are separate and are not viewed as one unified title. That means, per Meltzer's explanation, that there are 2 top championships and therefore another one isn't going to be created, because then there would be 3. The split of having 2 different champions will then just happen after WrestleMania, because Reigns versus Rhodes will be before both championships. Another thing that would potentially back this up is WWE has seemingly set up WrestleMania plans for Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre to be in a 3-way for the Intercontinental Championship with Gunther and Sheamus, so it doesn't look like that Rollins versus McIntyre title match will be going ahead. I don't think they'd have created a new championship. I feel like this one has got a bit lost in translation. I think they would have just found a way to split it, but they're not going to do that right now. Again, as to how they do that after WrestleMania, maybe it's just a case of Rhodes saying, I said I wanted to come back and be WWE champion. I am WWE champion. And one thing I don't want to be is Roman Reigns, and that's hold the company to ransom. Therefore, the Universal Championship belongs on SmackDown. The WWE Championship, like myself, belongs on Raw. I could see them doing something like that because it's a babyface thing to do and not a heel thing to do. Whether or not they do that, we'll have to wait and see. Lita is back. Yes, there were rumors about this prior to Raw last night, but indeed the Hall of Famer has returned. A shocking appearance by a WWE legend ended last night's edition of Raw. That steel cage match, of course, featuring Becky Lynch versus Bayley. A rematch, well, the match that was actually supposed to happen at the Raw is 30 anniversary special. With an assist of a Hall of Famer, Becky Lynch won the steel cage grudge match against Bayley after there was a barrage of interferences in the final third. While both Lynch and Bayley battled near the top of the steel cage near the end of their brutal battle, Io Sky managed to get herself up and cover and over the cage to strike. With Dakota Kai passing a crutch to Bayley, it seemed that Damage Control was poised to take the win after shenanigans. However, a WWE Legends music hit, much to the delight of fans. Hall of Famer Lita ran out to join the fray, taking out both Io Sky and Dakota Kai to even the odds and allow Lynch to hit the manhandle slam and capture the pinfall victory. Again, a fantastic ending to Raw, but what does this all mean? It seems a bit of a random appearance for Lita just to suddenly show up. So are there plans for her moving forward? The answer to that is yes. As I mentioned, Lita stopped the rest of Damage Control from cheating to help Bayley win, and the show went off the air with Lynch having won via pinfall. A new report appears to have revealed why Lita returned, and it's to set up a huge match for Elimination Chamber on February 18. Sean Rossap of Fightful pointed to a report from earlier today from WRKD Wrestling, which had revealed that Lita would be returning last night, which of course was obviously correct, and Trish Stratus will be returning next week. That will then set up a 6-woman tag team match for Elimination Chamber with Lynch, Lita, and Stratus versus the entire faction of Damage Control. There's no word yet on how things will evolve from that point on, but it seems likely that it's all going to tie into something at WrestleMania at the beginning of April. It would be a bit strange to get Lita and Trish in just for the event prior to WrestleMania. So whether that leads to tag team championship matches, I mean, it had been rumored that it was going to be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Damage Control for the tag titles at WrestleMania. Maybe they put Lita and Trish into that one. What does that do with Becky Lynch and Bayley? They kind of feel like they have nothing to do at WrestleMania at this point, but certainly was a fantastic moment and definitely a big match, certainly if they go down that route for Elimination Chamber. Speaking of Elimination Chamber, it has been confirmed. The match we kind of all expected to happen has now been officially announced. Last night's Raw kicked off with 2 Hall of Famers returning and a massive match being made for the upcoming Elimination Chamber event. There was a general war of the words between the two sides, with Edge accusing Finn Balor of looking like a low-budget Jamiroquai. It was like virtual insanity. Encourage the youth to Google it. I really would. It's a fantastic song. The exchange included a bit of a flub by Damian Priest, who was all over the place with this promo, by the way. He began to refer as the upcoming event as Money in the... before pivoting to say, "Oh, I hate you, Edge. You get me so worked up with rage, and I just don't know what to say." Now, speaking as someone who screws up his words all the time on this channel, I sympathise with you, Damien. I really do. Finally, though, Beth Phoenix took a turn on the mic to make a major challenge for Elimination Chamber. The Glamazon and Edge want Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor. Despite the fact that Ripley was not with her Judgment Day faction mates on Raw, Finn Balor accepted a massive challenge on her behalf for the show. So indeed, it is official. We will be getting that mixed tag team match at Elimination Chamber. We know Rhea Ripley's going to be facing Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania. However, we could still see Edge versus Finn Balor, maybe inside Hell in a Cell that at one point was scheduled for the Royal Rumble. So maybe that just is moved to WrestleMania. We'll have to wait and see. One thing we do know is for sure, the Grit couple will be facing the 2 members of the Judgment Day at the Chamber event. Speaking of challenges for Elimination Chamber, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, what would this be? 3 looks to be taking place at the event. It looks like we might be getting the 3rd match in the trilogy between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley a little sooner than some expected. Lesnar appeared on Raw last night to talk about his quick elimination from the Royal Rumble at Lashley's hands and how it left him unable to think about anything but Bobby who during about every activity except for one. The Beast then announced he had signed a multi-million-dollar contract for a one-on-one match between he and Lashley at Elimination Chamber and called the Almighty out to sign it. Lashley responded by saying he was going to get his agent, manager, and lawyers to look over the contract and get back to Brock. Lesnar didn't take too kindly to that, nailing 2 F5s on Bobby and leaving the contract with him. Later, we found out the 2 will have a contract signing next week on Raw, so expect furniture to get broken and security get back out. See, Damien? It's difficult. And security guards to get beaten up. The 3rd match, the dreaded rubber match in a series that has had maybe some underwhelming finishes or so, seemed destined for WrestleMania. So maybe the match doesn't even go ahead at Elimination Chamber. That's a possibility. I'm not sure. My feeling was that it shouldn't take place at WrestleMania, so I'm kind of glad that it doesn't. But this could be a situation where, again, the match doesn't happen and they have to do a gimmick match at the Showcase of the Immortals. That's certainly a possibility. Nevertheless, we're getting that contract signing next week. One act that is over is JBL and Baron Corbin. It was fun while it lasted, but now it's over. WWE Hall of Famer JBL no longer wishes to be associated with Baron Corbin. On last night's edition of Raw in Orlando, JBL reluctantly accompanied Corbin to the ring for his match against Dexter Lumis, but did not take kindly to Corbin's eventual loss. In a subsequent backstage segment, JBL would officially dump Corbin as his on-screen client. Quote, there ain't no we, JBL responded to Corbin for trying to brush off his loss to Lumis. I headlined WrestleMania. I sold out arenas all over the world. I was must-watch television. You are channel-changing television. That sound you hear when you enter the ring are remote controls around the world, changing the channel to watch anything but you. And I don't give a damn about you. I give a damn about the fact that my Hall of Fame legacy, my championship-laden career has lost all credibility because of you. Modern-day wrestling god, you are a clown. You do not belong near me, JBL added emphatically. A despondent Corbin vowed to better himself. John, where is this coming from? I can change. I can do better. I'll do better, Corbin said. You can't polish a turd. I tried, JBL responded. Going into Monday's show, Corbin had been on a 16-match losing streak dating back to his loss to Drew McIntyre on November 21, with his last victory coming against Akira Tozawa on November 14. As such, WWE is likely sowing the seeds for JBL to eventually dump Corbin as a client. The pair originally aligned on the October 17 edition of Raw, following which Corbin notched up a series of televised victories against the likes of Dolph Ziggler, Johnny Gargano, and Cedric Alexander, but his fortunes changed for the worse since his aforementioned loss to McIntyre. Fans on social media believe WWE could be bringing back Corbin's 2021 bum-ass character, which was also triggered by a losing streak. The character eventually morphed into Happy Corbin after the poverty-stricken version of the wrestler turned his misfortunes around with a game of blackjack in Las Vegas. I hope so, because a homeless Corbin was brilliant. Destitute Corbin was hilarious. Whether or not they return to that, whether or not this is just the continuation, the next chapter of the pairing between JBL and Corbin is a possibility as well, because realistically, nothing's changed about Baron Corbin since he paired up with JBL. He's got the same music, he's got really the same look. Nothing's really changed that much. Maybe it's just about embracing that change even more. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Nevertheless, as I mentioned, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future with Baron Corbin. The field of competitors for the United States Championship Elimination Chamber match has been confirmed. The field is set for the US Championship Elimination Chamber match at the titular event coming up on Saturday, February 18. The final 2 qualifiers were decided during Monday night's episode of Raw. The Judgment Day's Damian Priest faced off against Angelo Dawkins of the Street Profits. Later on, with United States Champion Austin Theory watching on from the commentary desk, Dawkins' tag team partner Montez Ford beat Elias to take the final spots in the match. Following Ford's victory, Seth freaking Rollins staged a surprise attack on Theory. Rollins, of course, is among the others who had already qualified for the Chamber match, along with Bronson Reed and Johnny Gargano. Rollins won a qualifying match over Chad Gable. Reed defeated Dolph Ziggler to get into the match, and Gargano scored a win over Baron Corbin. Theory, in his second reign as United States Champion, he won the title at Survivor Series War Games last November, taking the title from Rollins in a three-way match that also included Bobby Lashley. Since then, Theory has successfully defended the championship in separate singles matches against both Rollins and Lashley. Now, speaking of Elimination Chamber as well, we know the full field for the Women's Chamber match as well to determine who's going to face Bianca Belair at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. On last night's edition of Raw, a big four-way match was held to determine who would join the field in the Women's Elimination Chamber match at the upcoming Premium Live event. In the match, Michin, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae, Piper Niven, and the returning to action Carmella faced off to determine who would fill the final spot in the Chamber match. While all of the combatants put up a hard-fought battle with numerous near falls throughout, in the end, it was the returning Carmella who would come out on top. Capturing the pinfall victory, Carmella joins the already full Chamber field. The Women's Elimination Chamber match is set to see Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, Asuka, Natalya, and Carmella go to war for an opportunity at WrestleMania for a WrestleMania title match against Bianca Belair. As to who's going to win the match, let me know your predictions in the comment section below. I think it was going to be quite an interesting one. I think I'd go with Asuka, especially that new look version of her. Finally, we've got the ratings for last Friday's edition of SmackDown. Not this week's, like I said in the intro. I am stumbling over my words a lot today. The viewership figure and demo rating for Friday's February 3rd edition of SmackDown on Fox has been revealed. Per Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, SmackDown drew 2.384 million viewers. This is down from the January 27 edition that drew 2.544 million viewers. In the 18 to 49 demographic, Friday's show scored a 0.61 rating. This is also down from the week prior that scored a 0.67 rating. Despite the demo rating dropping, WWE still ranked number one for television in the demo for the night. This marked the fourth time in 5 weeks that they finished on top for the demographic. Of course, the show featured the fallout from the Royal Rumble, with the Bloodline reacting to Jey Uso walking out on the family and being absent from the show. Of course, Sami Zayn also challenged Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal Championship, with the Tribal Chief making the match for Elimination Chamber in Montreal on February 18. So there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.